Hey, George. I think you might be muted by hardware. Still, I cannot hear you.
How about now?
Yes.
There we go.
Loud and clear.
Do I sound okay, or do I need to go get a headset? I hope not.
You sound okay. Yeah, I don't get any echo. I think that's cool.
Yeah, I was just going to give it another minute.
Okay. Yeah, otherwise, I mean, we can just kick off the discussion. I think we know what we discuss on the meeting.
I'm hoping for. All right. So the site's been running for a while now. It hasn't really gotten a lot of the kind of explosive growth that Upstream was hoping to get, and they're kind of hosting it for us. And over time, the CSS and everything has been kind of unmaintained, so we don't really have anybody to fix that. So they were like, "What do you guys want to do here?" And they're kind of leaning towards shutting it down if it's not really going to be used. So I said, "Okay, that sounds cool." And then the Ubuntu on Windows thing happened with the user space, and they had the idea, hey, we could use the site for that, for kind of like Ubuntu on Bash Windows users that, you know, kind of might be newcomers, kind of need like a safe place where they don't get over Linuxed, I guess. And that sounds like a really good idea. I talked it over with Kirkland and everyone involved, and they said that'd be a great idea if we did that for the Ubuntu on Windows users. But we're still waiting back from Microsoft to see if they want to do that. So ideally, if we're not going to use the namespace, we would use this like as a sort of semi-official place supported by Microsoft and Canonical for Ubuntu on Bash people. But this only kind of happened in the last few weeks or so. So that's currently where we are in the state of things.
Okay.
Anybody?
So, I mean, yeah. I mean, is there? So I'm guessing that that we'll get more input on that in the upcoming weeks. But what are the most pressing issues, or what do you think we would need to fix, even to make the site useful for Bash Windows Ubuntu users?
So yeah, if we were to do that, we would need to fix the site CSS. I think is the biggest problem right now. It doesn't match the branding of a lot of the sites. I mean, let me have a look at it. I mean, it's not bad per se, but since Upstream is currently revving the release version quickly, you know, it's not something that we can just, hey, we did the CSS and then check on it every 6 months. You know, it kind of needs to be maintained on a more regular basis, I guess, as opposed to having Anthony Dillon looks at it every once in a while when he has spare time. But I am assuming that if we do want to pursue the Ubuntu on Bash bits, that would help us get enough resources to do that. But as I said, that's a pending thing, and we're kind of dependent on third parties whether that's going to happen or not. So there's really no decision to make yet on that.
Okay.
And Liz mentioned there were some problems with the email integration. Like, I guess you're supposed to be able to reply to if you subscribe to something over email. And I'm not sure it's something we ever set up properly, but I'm pretty confident that if we were to really care about it, it's like a configuration option or something like that we could use, because I know other Discourse sites are using that with success.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that was going to be my next question. I mean, how is Discourse doing outside of our own instance? I mean, is this something particular of our Ubuntu instance that it hasn't gotten that much traction as we were expecting, or is this something that hasn't?
Mozilla is running it with great success. I mean, I see Discourse sites everywhere. I'm on a few. I'm on the Smart Things one, which is pretty busy. Boing Boing. Like, it feels like everyone but ours is doing very well. I think in hindsight, the issue is that even though we presented it as a better alternative software-wise, security-wise, deployment-wise, user interface-wise to the forums folks, they didn't really want to switch software. So at that point, it doesn't really matter, what we would have done effectively. So I don't think there's anything we could have done other than force a software change on people, which would have been bad, I think.
Yeah.
So it was available here. Everyone knows it's the better option. Nobody wants to use it. I think that's sad. I think that's shitty for our users, but it is what it is. Both Marco and I really wanted to make this work, but right now, due to our cloud jobs, we don't really have time to work on Ubuntu per se. And Marco's on the community council now, so all his Ubuntu time is taken up with that. So there's really not a lot of people left in the community that want to push this forward. So like I said, the hopes for a rescue here is that, if Microsoft does want to go through and do like an Ubuntu on Windows kind of rebranding for that, like for those users, that would be great. Other than that, like I don't really see it changing, like the kind of cool water cooler vibe. The Ubuntu subreddit, I think, overwhelmingly has kind of what we were looking for, right? The kind of, I guess, interaction with our users as far as getting honest feedback and things like that. And that just never really took off with Discourse, which is unfortunate. So that's that. Let's see if...
Yeah, I mean, generally the suggestion would be to do a call for contributors. If someone would be interested in picking up the CSS fixes or CSS upgrades, but as I understand it, this is something that has already happened, and we didn't get any traction on it. Is that correct?
Yeah, and hold on, I'm just looking through some other.
I wouldn't. It's worth noting though that whenever we ask for help with CSS on any site, it's always quite difficult to find people to do it. Like the Ubuntu subreddit has a new CSS because like one or two people stepped up to do it. There's been people who've been creating a new WordPress, Ubuntu style WordPress theme, and so on. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of places where we ask people in the community to do CSS updates, and it's always quite hard to find people who are willing to do it. So that's common, that.
Yeah, and that's also only a symptom, right? A symptom, right? Even if we had like the world's best CSS and everything was running awesome and all the integration that we wanted working,
Right, and also
do we have the mass like of readership that we would on the Ubuntu subreddit, right? Like the subreddit is, I think, captured what the initial goal was, right? I want a place I can go to every day that's like user generated but filtered content as well, right?
So
that kind of captures a spirit, right? Like I go to that site every day in the morning. It's like, sweet, what's going on in Ubuntu? I go to the subreddit. I don't go to Planet, right? I certainly don't go to the mailing list. So I feel like a lot of the vibe that we initially wanted, and kudos to those guys because, the new CSS looks great. There's certainly enough.
But part of the problem is that we had established communities already. If you look at other people who use Discourse successfully, like Mycroft or Bad Voltage, they had no community to start with, and they built one on Discourse. So it was like starting out from zero, and everyone went there. We already had communities all over the place, so we were on a hiding to nothing from day one.
Right, and there were a lot of commitments, admittedly, done that canonical that we promised that we didn't execute. Right, like we said, the design mailing lists would be shut down and moved over. I think they were under the impression that, why would you even need mailing lists if you have Discourse? Which I feel that for some of our mailing lists would have helped. So we tried to do the whole Loco thing, but I think we grossly overestimated the amount of traffic that Loco lists generate. So we created a bunch of lists, a bunch of Discourse subsection for Locos that no one showed up to, that sort of thing. So, I mean, we had intents to put Discourse comments for like Mark's blog, for all the charm pages, and none of that ever really materialized. So it was also intended as a replacement for places where we use Discuss, which is a separate thing that only does comments. But we never really got to that point. So, but yeah, you're right. I mean, to me, I think it was a mistake to try to force people to leave vBulletin, which is foreign to me, but for some reason the forums community is really tied to that software, and I don't understand why. I know lots of other large successful communities change forum software all the time with great success, but we weren't able to do that. So it is what it is. I mean,
yeah, I think.
And at the time when we started, the Ubuntu subreddit was around, but it wasn't really. I don't think it was nearly as popular as it is now, and I think it took a while for that subreddit to kind of find its feet, its place, where it kind of fits in that kind of quirky, fast like a forum, but not a cluttered mess, And we get participation there from Ubuntu developers, which we didn't really have, and other, senior community members and stuff, which we didn't really have like on Discourse. I had to remind people to post stuff on there, and it just wasn't really we did that for a year, and it just wasn't catching on. So that's fine.
Yeah, I think one place where it could have worked, and admittedly, by proposing something, I should have also tried, would have been with the with communities where English is not their main language. I know some locals that have really wanted to migrate away from vBulletin, and in particular also because it wasn't free software. But I think if they had been able to try, or if they had known that Discourse might be an option, that might have worked for them. But in any case, that's just in hindsight. I think for the global community, then I would be looking at then is, whether this could be interesting for new Ubuntu on Windows users, or then if not, then as you say, sunsetting it.
Yeah, so what I like to do in order to get some actions out of this is basically I would like a little bit of a buy to kind of wait on whether Microsoft is interested, kind of shifting towards that direction. If that's the case, then since they're a partner, it would be easier for me to get resources to kind of fix the site, and then the Discourse guys would help us with that. Other than that, if that doesn't come through, I would just mark it read-only, I guess, for 3 months, and then throw the database stuff in a bucket, and then just kind of make an announcement or whatever, and then give people some time, and then that's that, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, essentially shutting it down gracefully. I think I would agree on that.
Yeah. So is there a typical period when we shut something off? How long we keep it up? I don't remember what we did for Brainstorm.
I don't either. But I'd say yes, 3 to 6 months might be reasonable.
Okay.
And then having the data somewhere where people who are interested could download it.
Are you
Although
proposing?
I'm not sure if we put the standard place.
you proposing not having a last hurrah and one last try, or?
Yeah, I don't know if you were here earlier, but I think the last.
Oh, I missed the first 5 minutes.
Yeah, the last hurrah would be if Microsoft isn't. So the Discourse guys are thinking, hey, this would be a great resource if we were to kind of shift it away from just, hey, this is forums, to be specifically targeted towards the Ubuntu on Bash people, and this would be sort of a semi-officially blessed place from Microsoft and Canonical. They would send developers there, and we would send, people there, kind of thing. And I kind of consider that the last hurrah. I don't really see any way other than doing like a shift like that to make this grow and work without shutting down existing avenues, right? Like if we were to tell everybody, hey, we're shutting down the Snappy mailing list and we're going to do all Snappy development here, right? Either people would get really angry or it just wouldn't work at all. You know what I mean?
Okay, so let's pin a thing at the top of Discourse saying we're thinking of shutting this down, and promote that in all the usual places like Ubuntu Weekly News, and that could be the first signal that we're planning to do it.
Right.
And if there's enough people who say no and would volunteer to help with things like the styling and pushing more content to it or whatever, then so be it. If not, after 3 months, gone.
So do you want me to do that before or after seeing it?
I would be kind of surprised if the Microsoft guys would be interested in this, given they have plenty of communities of their own.
Right.
And like their own developer-related community sites. They have quite
exactly.
busy ones. So I think it would be unlikely they'd be interested. Okay.
That sounds good. So 3 months then? I guess it was all my idea, so I guess I'm the guy that gets to write this. So we'll say 3 months worth.
Right.
Is there like a traffic target? How do we know if?
Well, it's not just the amount of traffic; it's people taking ownership of and responsibility for looking after the thing as well.
Okay.
Exactly.
So we shouldn't really set a target other than we'll know when it's obvious that people are starting to really jump in and care, right?
Yeah, I think I would perhaps what I would suggest is to put together a list of what we need to make the site successful, or at least to make the site have another go at taking off. I mean, one thing that we've discussed is the CSS, but I think most importantly as well, like having moderators. If I understand it correctly, that we need a team that's looking after the site, and that's not just about styling. It's
it kind of doesn't work like that. It's sort of like Ask Ubuntu, where the more you use it and the more rights you get, sort of as people like your posts and people read your posts. So it's kind of purposely geared to not picking people as moderators. It's kind of self-moderating.
Right. Right.
There are some.
Perhaps I used the wrong word, but what I mean is that there's a team of active users, for want of a better name, that care about that or contribute. Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So perhaps, I mean, from what I get from the discussion, perhaps this might be the most, the sort of indicators for us to understand whether this last hurrah has been successful or not.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps we need either a blog post, or I mean, if we put a notice at the top of Discourse, this could point to somewhere where in more detail we explain, here's what we need. If you do care about this website, here's how you can help.
Yeah.
Just a minor thing, I wouldn't link elsewhere. I'd sticky on Discourse and point people to Discourse. Because if you're ever going to get more people going there, you don't send them somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And then I guess we could talk about metrics for success, I guess, on Discourse itself. I mean, duh.
Right.
Yeah.
That might be an idea.
So start the conversation on Discourse. If you get no responses and no conversation, that's pretty much your answer.
Right,
if there
because
is a meeting.
originally the idea was going to be awesome. Like we would embed a Discourse thread on every on-air hangout, right? So when you went to the summit page, you would see the video of us talking, and then people could ask questions, and people could say, that's a good question, that's not a good question.
Yeah.
And you could have discussion threads that were all into the summit. It was, other than us actually not doing any of that stuff.
Yeah, I don't deny it's a great tool.
Sure. So, yeah, but is that technically possible already? I mean, I remember those discussions back in the days, but I think there was some work needed to be able to do that, as in.
Oh yeah, well, there's always a little bit of work that's needed. Yeah.
Like whenever I see something where we talk about promoting it internally, the only place we ever talk about is, you share stuff on Twitter. You maybe, if it's developer related, you might put it on Hacker News. You might put it on the subreddit. You might put it on Google Plus. Nobody in the last year that I can remember has said, let's put that on Discourse.
Right.
So we didn't build this for success by we didn't dog food our own tool.
Right. And to their credit, the weekly newsletter team, Liz did.
Yes.
She was like the only one that was like, fine, George said do this, And then I remember chasing after team in Canonical to be like, put your status reports on here. So the kernel team did it for a while. Then it was obvious to them because you could see how many people read your post. Right. After a while, they were like, well, ain't no one reading this. So yeah, you could totally understand why they would.
Right, but part of the problem there is that it's the same content copy pasted from a wiki page or a mailing list post or a blog post that's on Planet Ubuntu and just posted into Discourse. Why on earth would anyone go to Discourse if they can see the same thing in 8 other places?
Right.
It's more like unique conversations you want to have on there if you want to pull people in, and that's what Reddit has. There's someone will post a link to a thread, or post a link to an IRC log and say, look what they're going to do, and then there's a conversation.
Right.
I think we're guilty of using it wrong. If all we're doing is copy and pasting stuff and saying, you could talk about this here, when in fact there's 3 other places they can talk about it as well.
Right. I agree. All right, so short session. See, I told you. You got like a half hour back in your day, David Pamela.
Great, I'll go and spend that half an hour on Discourse.
Yeah, all right, so I'm going to go ahead. All right, so I'm going to post the initial topic, Popey, and then you can, we still need to figure out, like if 50,000 people show up tomorrow and then it's like awesome, then whatever. So I'll go ahead and get that topic started, and then with that, thanks everyone for coming. I'll post the notes and everything on there as well.
Anna has been writing some of the, all of the notes actually from the session, and he's been noting down the actions as well.
I've got
so if you guys can just redo that.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and thanks for taking the notes. I'll go ahead and I'll expand them to make them make sense. That way we all don't look crazy. So. Cool. All right, with that, thank you very much. We'll talk to you guys later.
Thanks, everyone.
All right. Thanks.